Good morning. I'm Steve Barrett, Superintendent of Gahanna Jefferson Schools, and I'm excited today to talk to Sarah Naiman and Amelia Scheetz. They've had a big impact on Gahanna Lincoln High School, and they're co-editors of The Lion's Roar, so we're going to talk about that a little bit this morning. So first, if each of you could just tell us what you're going to do after graduation. Why don't you start, Sarah?
Yeah, so I, over the summer, I'm going to be working as a counselor at a sleepaway camp. So I'm leaving next week, and I'll come back in the beginning of August.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really fun. I've been going there for a long time.
Okay.
And then I'll be going to Oberlin College in the fall.
Okay. Wow. Great choice. It's a good school. Amelia?
So this summer I will be working some miscellaneous jobs, but then I'm going to Europe with my mom.
Wow.
For a graduation trip.
Wow.
Yeah, and then in the fall I'll be attending American University.
Wow, another great choice.
For sure.
Wow. So you guys have already graduated, and so now you're doing graduation parties and you're getting ready for your summer. Can you reflect back a little bit on what your experience was like when you were young? So when did you start here in Gahanna Jefferson?
So I actually had a little bit of a different experience. I started at Gahanna when I was in 6th grade at Middle School East. I went to a private school for elementary.
Okay.
And for me, it was a really good time to transfer in because it was a combination of a couple schools, and I'd done Girl Scouts to get to know some of the girls around my neighborhood, and when I was young, I found it pretty easy to make friends in 6th grade. Everybody was new.
How about you, Amelia?
For me, I lived in Bexley when I went to preschool.
Okay.
So literally we moved right before kindergarten.
Okay.
So I've been hearing it since I was in kindergarten.
Okay, great. So what activities, I know you both have been very involved, and so what activities have you been involved with? Why don't you start, Sarah?
Yeah, so a lot of the same activities, but we've both been involved in speech and debate. We were co-captains of the team this year. And then, obviously, the newspaper, The Lion's Roar, which we started up last year as juniors. We're in NHS. I'm in Spanish Honor Society. A couple stuff outside of school.
Okay.
All of the things Sarah mentioned, like debate and newspaper, we're both also in yearbook, NHS, French Honor Society, and then I was in student council and chorale as well.
Wow. You guys are going to miss each other. You're probably going to
I know.
call each other every day.
Yeah.
So what classes had the biggest impact, or activities had the biggest impact on you? Why don't you start, Amelia?
For sure the AP US History class. I had Mr. Cullivan, and I remember that class and that material really showed me how much I like American government and American history, and it really propelled me to continue to pursue like political science and debate. And then I would also say Mr. Wagner's Honors 10 journalism class as well. Okay. Because I really just realized how much I loved journalism, and how much I was like, we have to bring the newspaper back because it's so important. And
we should talk a little bit about how you guys thought that through. How about you, Sarah?
I would say probably also a push. I also had Mr. Cullivan. I just thought he was the greatest teacher. He kind of knew what to say and when. I would also say probably Miss Phillips. I had her for Honors English 11, and I thought that class really helped me grow the most as a writer, I think, in high school. She just helped me come up with new ideas and inject them into my writing.
So both of you are strong at argumentation, at writing. What strengths do you think you built here that are really going to help you flourish beyond high school?
I would say you really learn how to format an argument in writing, and after you're able to do that, whether it be in an essay or in a verbal speech, it really allows you to understand if you want to make a claim, you have to have evidence. And that helps you in life in general when you're trying to argue a point, whether it be about the news or a new climate change topic. It really allows you to set yourself up for success.
Okay.
I would say for me, the greatest skill I've learned from those two classes and more is probably about leadership and about why it's important to be a leader, how to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Gahanna has really helped me define that in my own terms.
Yeah, I've seen you both motivating debaters and speech folks before a big competition. Like I remember the one where you met in the library and gave them a pep talk about being ready. So what do you both think your greatest accomplishment has been here at Gahanna Lincoln High School? Why don't you start?
We're probably going to say the same thing. I'd probably say the Lions, who are coming back at the Lions.
Do you want to hold it up so people can see?
Yeah.
So
was
this
our
is
latest.
a May issue, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about how that became your greatest accomplishment.
Yeah, sure. I think really it's like Sarah and I came up with this idea at the end of our sophomore year when we found out that the old paper was going to be taken away.
Okay.
And we put in so much time to this publication and went through so many trials and like ups and downs. And after being able to produce a magazine that's now like award winning in the state, it's just, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and you weren't really thinking about the number of issues you ended up doing, right? You were just trying to dip your toe in the water, get it going.
Yeah.
And I remember that you actually researched printers in the area, so you learned a little bit about the publishing business and what things cost. And I remember we met to talk about it a little bit. So I know what was a big part of this for you was creating a legacy so that the Lions Roar will continue. And so you were very intentional about finding kids that are going to carry it through, and hopefully it'll be here for decades to come. So talk about that. How did you get that to happen?
Yeah.
So a lot of that I think comes from like our personal investment in the paper. You know, we really, when like Amelia was saying, when we heard the paper was getting shut down, we were like, you know, as a matter of practicality, how can a school of 2,500 kids not have a paper? And, you know, more idealistically, you know, how in today's day and age, when journalism is such a changing point, how could we not have our own paper? So we tried to find people who would share those same feelings, and so we actually, in this one, we always write a little editorial thing at the end, and we wrote it with the 2 people who will be taking over next year. So we've been training them on how to kind of put the paper together and do the website, and so we'll definitely be a resource next year, but it's pretty much up to them.
And you know they're going to be calling you, right?
Right.
On deadline. What did you do when this happened? And so that's great, and thank you so much, because this really adds to our school community. A lot of times in school, you write for an audience of one, right? A teacher, and you guys have learned to write for an audience of a very large community, and lots of folks read the Lions Roar, not just high school kids or teachers, but I've seen it in Panera, I've seen it in other places. And so how did you distribute it? How did you decide where to put it? Because you don't have that many copies, right?
Yeah.
So how did you decide that?
So we knew that like we wanted the majority of the papers to be at the high school, but we wanted to be able to reach more people in the community, especially the middle schools too, because they would be coming to the high school.
Right.
So Sarah and I came up with giving them to the English teachers at the high school.
Okay.
And then placing, I think, like 20 copies in each middle school library.
Okay.
And then we looked around Gahanna to find which spots people would actually read them, like Upper Cup, who always sponsors us, and the library, and other places like that.
Yeah, cool. That's great. And so, have you gotten feedback from kids or from teachers or people in the community?
Yeah, I mean, I know. For me, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, particularly I'd say from English teachers, but also just from random people around the community, and they're like, "This is great! Like, how did you guys do this?"
Yeah. I have a friend whose grandparents live in Scotland, and they were having coffee at Upper Cup, and they saw the paper.
Wow.
And he started reading it just because he said it looked interesting, and then he saw my name, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, like this is Amelia." And so it's really interesting because people actually do like pick it up and read it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So when you think about your time in our schools in Gahanna Jefferson, what makes you the most proud?
I would say along with the paper, obviously, probably just the way that I've learned, again, to be a leader, to build relationships. Speech and debate was also a really important part of our experience. We were both fortunate enough to go to the state tournament this year. And, the relationship that I was able to build with, like, my debate coach, it's definitely a transferable skill that I'll have in the future.
For me, I think it's just looking around at the community, because when the community comes together, whether it's a time of sadness or rejoicing, it's amazing, and I feel so proud to be part of such a great community, because everyone is able to come together when it counts and support each other, and it's like, oh, you're from Gahanna, and suddenly we have stuff in common, and it's such a proud feeling.
That's great. So in speech and debate, you guys won a big tournament, right? I mean, you beat some schools that have been debating longer than we have, right? So maybe talk about that a little bit.
So I guess my biggest accomplishment, I actually placed 8th at the state tournament, and that was really exciting. And it's exciting because here, I would say speech and debate for me carries great weight, but maybe not so much around the school. But some of these schools, in that half of their kids are in speech and debate, and it's like a sport. It's like a huge thing. And so to be able to accomplish so much was really, really exciting and very gratifying.
Yeah, for sure. I think the team being able to win districts this year was awesome, because the team this year, it was a lot of new kids. And so as captain, Sarah and I tried to really motivate kids, because the first few tournaments, when not many people place, it's hard for people to keep coming back or keep wanting to wake up at 5 in the morning. But after winning districts, it made everything worth it. And you could tell everyone was so excited and proud of one another. And we just really were able to come together as a team.
It's still hard to want to wake up at 5 in the morning.
It's still hard.
And beyond, right? Be ready to argue. That's tough. So in a few months, you guys are gonna be in American U and Oberlin, but we'll have a crop of middle school kids coming to our high school. So each of our middle schools, all 3, have around 500 or 600 kids. And so they're used to a pretty small environment, and they're gonna be coming into a massive building with 2,400 plus students. What advice do you have for them as they enter high school?
I would say my biggest advice is to be kind, because I know you hear it a lot, but truly, if you're just kind to one another, and instead of seeing someone who's different from you and judging them or thinking that they're less than, if you're just kind, it'll get you so much farther throughout high school, because you'll be able to build more relationships. You won't cut yourself off from groups in the school, and then you can just meet so many more people and learn so much more, because you won't be surrounded with people just like yourself.
So be approachable, take risks, meet people maybe that are different, and try to understand them instead of like judging them before you actually know what they're about.
Exactly.
Okay. Sarah?
I would say, kind of contrary to some advice, don't worry so much about finding a niche. Let it come naturally. A lot of people say, oh, you just find your group and then it's fine. But I had 2 older siblings who graduated from Gahanna. One was an athlete and one was in theater, which are kind of built-in groups. And I personally didn't have either of those. And so just kind of letting it come naturally and not forcing yourself into any, I need to be an athlete so I can have this built-in group of friends. Finding it naturally is definitely the best way to go about it.
Okay. What about the size of the high school? Maybe it was daunting for both of you. How did you overcome that? If you even needed to overcome it.
Surrounding yourself with, or finding people you know in every class.
Surrounding yourself with good friends. You can meet with lunch to have some kind of a center point in your day.
So what I've talked to a lot of kids about, the high school is big, but when you meet people and you're part of groups, it becomes smaller and you become kind of connected, and both of you are involved in so many different activities, and some of the kids that you hang out with are involved in the same activities you're involved, but then there's different kids, and so you have a lot of relationships that you build. Do you think that's going to help you in the next level in college, in kind of joining in? How do you think that might help?
I think for sure it'll help, because I think the lessons I've learned from how to make relationships or how to make connections with people, it will help me, especially going into college. I think we're both going to smaller schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be nice because even if we become very involved in college, we'll be able to still make connections and make the big school seem smaller,
Mm-hmm.
which is so important, and being
Right.
able to get to know people and learning what it means to be a good friend.
Right.
Yeah, I think learning how to make a big community small is definitely a really important skill to have, because otherwise you just allow yourself to kind of like flounder around, and you know there's no accountability. So if you can figure out a way to just kind of center yourself and find people in every
Mhm.
activity, I think in college that'll be, I mean, with the new challenges you can have academically and socially,
Right.
being able to make that big community small will be really important. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to tell everyone about your experience here in Gahanna Jefferson?
I think for me, just go for it. Take the risk.
Mm-hmm.
If you are nervous about joining a group, join it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because you won't have any consequences from trying something new.
Mhm.
Or especially in theater and choir, I really recommend to just audition.
Mhm.
And if you don't get in, try crew and audition again. But
Mhm.
never give up, because Gahanna is a community that will raise you up and help you grow
Mm.
if you take your chances.
That's really cool. So you were in the musical,
Yeah.
and there was probably 300 kids,
Yeah.
from the crew to the pit and the orchestra to the
Yeah.
people on stage. It was a lot of kids involved.
Oh,
so
yeah.
so there's lots of different paths in theater.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah?
I would say work hard. That was kind of my big thing in high school, you know. If it was like we both took Mr. Barath's honors pre-calc class, super difficult.
Yeah.
But if you work hard, you know, Mr. Barath would help me and
Mhm.
whatever. But kind of working hard, no matter what you're in. You know, I didn't do theater. I did drawing classes,
Mhm.
and you know, I'm not going to art school. But if
Mhm.
I worked hard on my drawings, they would turn out for what was for me as well as I could do them.
Yeah.
So academically, socially being involved.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I would argue that Lincoln Douglas debate is a form of theater.
That's true.
Yeah. So you were pretty theatrical
Yeah.
when I saw you debate. Well, I just want to thank you for all you've contributed to our schools, to our high school. You've really left a mark. You've made an impact, and you know, I know the Lions Roar. Wasn't just important for you for your time here, but you want to see it continue, and you've really created a legacy. So I just want to thank you both so much. It's been wonderful to watch how you've developed and how you've grown as writers and as publishers, and the business end of things. It's amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
you.